Hi, this is a lesson on percents, decimals, and fractions. Did you hear the news? They're all related. They are family. Percents, decimals, and fractions, all related. So first let's look at the word percent. Percent. Everybody should note that the word cent is Latin for hundred. So every time you see a percent, you know it's in relation to 100. It's a ratio where the first term is compared to 100. So the percent is the number of hundredths that represent the part. So for example, if you were to take a multiplication fact test with 100 problems and you got a 90%, that would mean that out of 100 problems, you had 90 correct, 90 over 100. So I just showed here in my example with a multiplication fact test that a fraction can also, or a percent can also be shown as a fraction with a denominator of 100. There's that word again, 100. So for example, 50% is really, can be expressed as 50 over 100. And any fraction with a denominator of 100, so a percent, can be shown as a decimal to the hundredth place. So in our example here, 50% is the same as 50 over 100 is the same as the decimal 0.50. We all know from our lessons on fractions and simplifying in lowest terms, 50/100ths can also be shown as 5/10ths or 1/2 in lowest terms, and the decimal 50/100ths can be shown as 50 over 100, 5 over 10, or 1/2. As you can see, all these different concepts, decimals, percents, and fractions are all related. How do you find the percent of a number? The easiest way is every percent can be changed to a decimal. So we spent the whole first fall term learning how to do operations with decimals. So what to do when you have a percent? Excuse me, you write the percent as a decimal. To write a percent as a decimal, you should divide the percent by 100. We all know anytime you divide by a multiple, we're talking about hopping decimal places. So because it is 100, you would hop the decimal 2 places to the left and omit the percent sign. So let's look at our examples here about changing these items, 50%. What you would do is, according to the directions above, I rewrite the number, I drop the percent sign, and I hop the decimal 2 places to the left. So 50% becomes 0.50. Same thing with 25%. I rewrite the number, I drop the percent sign, and I move the decimal 2 places to the left, or 0.25. And the same thing can be done with 33%. Write it, drop the percent sign, hop the decimal 2 places to the left, 0.33. Now let's talk about finding a percent of a number. We do this oftentimes when we're thinking about taxes, when we're thinking about tips, we're thinking about the number of correct problems over a total number of problems attempted. So first, if I look at the percent, 25%, and based on the rules we just showed you on the previous page, you rewrite number 25, you drop the percent sign, hop the decimal 2 places. So 25% equals, or is the same as 0.25, or 25/100ths. And then you multiply that decimal times the number we're talking about. So in this case, you can see here's 25%, the 0.25 times 30, the total we're looking at. So if I said I just recently gave an exam on percentages and Xavier missed 25% of the problems. So out of 30 problems, he missed 25%. I would take 0.25 times 30. I remember everything I learned about multiplication of decimals. You multiply normally. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 3 is 15. I move over to the 2, which is really a 20. So I put my placeholder 0, and then 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 3 is 6. I add the two numbers together, and I get 750. I see I had 2 decimal places here, 0 decimal places there. So I move my decimal. The invisible decimal is always here to the right. 1, 2 places. So 30% or 25% of 30 would be 7.5. So he would have missed 7.5 problems, which really probably wouldn't have happened. Now, how do we change a percent into a fraction? So this is the third way we're looking at it. You rewrite the percent as a fraction using the percentage as your numerator and 100 as a denominator. So here we have 25%. I rewrite it using 25 as my numerator, and it's per 100. 100's my denominator. You see I do the same for each of these. Even if it is a percent above 100, you still show it as a fraction as 115 over 100, and as a decimal that would be 1.15 as your decimal. So now let's move on. How do you change a fraction to a decimal or a percent? This one is simply divide the numerator by the denominator and add a sign. At this point, you may be getting a little confused with all the rules, but it would be important just to keep those handy so that you knew whatever the task was, you would simply go to that rule and follow it. So if I divide, in this case, I have a fraction of 1/2. I divide the numerator, which is 1, by the denominator, which is 2. We know that I can always add a decimal point and put an infinite number of zeros after the point. Now here, you're going to remember in this problem all the rules we learned in the fall about how to divide a decimal by a whole number. So in this case, we pop up the point and divide normally. And you can see that 1/2 equals a decimal of 0.50. Remember, hop the decimal points 2 places to the right, 1, 2, and you simply add a percent sign. So here we have start with a fraction. The next step is that we move to a decimal, and then from a decimal to a percent. Again, all are related. So one last thing to remember is we talk about some benchmark numbers that you should always keep in mind to help you understand if your solutions make sense. They're in the ballpark. Those handy benchmark fractions are numbers like this. 50% equals 1/2 or 0.50. 25% simplified is 1/4 or 0.25. 75%, and with both of these you should be thinking money, is 3/4 or 0.75. 10% is 0.10 or 1/10. 33% is 1/3, and this is one of those repeating decimals that's also shown by a line above the number. And that means this could go on to infinity with 0.33333. We usually end it at the 100th place. The same thing is true for 2/3, or we round it. It really is 0.6666666, but rounded to the nearest hundredth is 0.67. Any number over itself, like 1/1, 2/2, 10/10, is always, if you divide the numerator by the denominator, you're always going to get 100%. And then this is the one that's the trickiest. You have to always remember that the rule for changing a percent to a decimal is to drop that percent sign and move the decimal 2 places to the left. So you would fill that in with a 0. So 5% is 0.05. Finally, to make things a little easier, you could use this page or write down these rules to always refer to. It gives you step-by-steps on how to change each one of these. So again, try and remember, we are family, and each decimal, percent, and fractions are all related. That's all for now. Thank you.